So you are a 100-year-old company with $125 billion in revenue, and you decide it's time to change the company and transform how we sell. Who are you going to call? You're going to call our guest today, Cate Gutowski, who is with General Electric. And before we turn to Cate, I'm Michael Krigsman. I'm an industry analyst and the host of CXOTalk, and you are watching episode number 266 of CXOTalk. I want to say a heartfelt thank you to tact.ai. They are an amazing company. It's a small company that builds an assistant, a personal assistant based on artificial intelligence for salespeople. I've been an advisor to the company. They're a great company. Some of their customers are the largest organizations in the world, including General Electric. So go to their website, tact.ai, and thank you so much to Tact for supporting CXOTalk. Without further ado, I want to give a hearty welcome to Cate Gutowski. How are you?
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for being a guest on CXOTalk, and tell us about GE and tell us what you do.
Great. No, thanks for having me, Michael. I'm currently based in Boston. I've been with GE for 20 years. And what I'm currently doing for the company is leading our sales function globally. And specifically, I'm leading the current digital transformation of our salesforce. So today, GE has 10 different business units. We have 25,000 sellers in 180 countries. And the job that my team and I have is to really help create a technology stack for sales. And the reason why we're working on a transformation of our sales force is because GE is in the process of transforming from a 125-year-old industrial company to a digital industrial. And one of the things that we've recognized is that if we're really going to become a digital industrial, it's important that we think, act, and work in a digital way.
And so from a sales perspective, what does that mean? When you say think, act, and work in a digital way, give us some color as to what that means.
Yeah, it's a great question, Michael. I'll share a specific example. For me, I've been with the company 20 years, as I mentioned. And when I look at the way that our sales teams are selling, they're fundamentally selling the same way as I did when I started and graduated off GE's technical leadership program, 18 years ago. The tools of the Salesforce are mostly PowerPoint. It's mostly product training, more recently outcome selling training, and more recently, probably in the last 10 years, one of the key tools of the Salesforce is CRM systems, which essentially are really databases. And so, when we think about those as the tools of the Salesforce, I would argue that those aren't modern and contemporary tools. And so what we really want to do is create a technology stack for sales that helps our sellers to be more modern, more contemporary, and most importantly, helps them to address our customers' needs.
So it's the intersection of technology and sales that you're focused on right now.
Yeah, that's right, Michael. I think I have the best job in the company because my job really is the intersection of three things that I really love, which are, getting to spend time with our sales teams all around the world. It's product development, particularly software product development. And it's all focused on change and transformation and the digital space. And so it's a great role.
This transformation that you've been describing is a very large transformation that cuts across GE.
That's right. That's right. The way to think about, our team is we're currently a horizontal in the company. So meaning we really focus on the common needs and common problems of each of the different business units. Even though we might be selling, aircraft engines in one business and MRI machines in another business, in our healthcare business, at the end of the day, there's more that's common across all of our different business units that's then that's different. And so we work on the common needs and common problems of those divisions.
So from a sales standpoint, then you have General Electric has so many different divisions, and they're so disparate. And so from a sales standpoint, what are some of those common elements that is it fair to say that you're unifying?
So it's a great question. I mean, I think here's an example I'd share. Right, I think one of the great things we've done in partnership with our CIO is we've created more synergies. So in the past, each business unit would have its own commercial CIO, and that commercial CIO is dedicated to working with the sales leaders to make sure that the sales teams had the tools and the technologies that they needed. We've recognized that that's probably an inefficient way to work. And so we've consolidated all of that into one commercial CIO that works across all of the businesses and is essentially my partner in getting a lot of this work done.
So you're working very closely with IT and the CIO. And I just want to remind everybody that we're talking with Cate Gutowski, who is with General Electric and responsible for sales transformation. And there's a tweet chat going on right now using the hashtag CXOTalk. So if you go to Twitter, you can actually send questions to Cate. So you're working closely with IT and the CIO. And why is that so important?
Yeah, great question, Michael. I love that question. Look, one of the things I'm convinced of is that all future sales leaders, I think, in order to be successful, you really need to have a very close working partnership with your CIO. Look, there's a lot of technology that exists today, it exists right now, it's on the market right now. That can dramatically change your sales process and make you significantly more efficient and make your sales teams more productive. But the problem is a lot of us, quite simply don't like change. And so for me, it's been fantastic. I've almost felt like an IT wannabe. And I've spent a lot of time with the IT team. And what I can tell you is that they're incredible partners. And any job I ever take in the future, I'm going to make sure that I have the opportunity to really develop a close partnership because I can see how it can be incredibly productive.
How do you engage? The reason I'm asking is for many organizations, there are such strong silos. We have sales, we have marketing, we have IT, and each of these groups has its own objectives, its own KPIs. And so how do you manage the collaboration? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. The way that I chose to organize, when I was asked to lead this digital transformation, I chose to organize my team as product management. So I have product managers that wake up every morning that are focused on different areas, and they partner with a lot of technology companies. And in some cases, we make decisions every day, Michael. Are we going to build, make, or buy technologies? And in some cases, things are strategic, and we want to have the IP around it. And we feel like we can execute it faster than someone else. And so we'll choose to do it on our own. But in a lot of cases, there's a lot, the sales technology landscape is exploding right now. And there's a lot of great technology like tact.ai, for example, that exists that it's cheaper, faster, better for us to partner with a company like Tact to bring a product like the GE Digital Assistant to market, and to our sales professionals than it would be to try to create it on our own.
That's really interesting. So you are actively deciding where to invest. Do we build the technology that we need? Do we go out of house and buy that technology? We're working with IT to deploy that technology. And how do you make those kind of difficult investment decisions, those make versus buy decisions?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really the core function of product management to make those decisions, right? Every dollar that we have to invest, from a capital standpoint, we want to make sure that we're getting a $4 to $5 return. And so from a capital allocation standpoint, that's how we look at it. The other strategic questions that we ask ourselves are, is this strategic in nature? I'll give you an example. It was strategic for us. We just built our customer data foundation. It took us 9 months to link 50 instances of Salesforce all around the company and to set up master data management, data governance for our customer data. And we believe that data is the new oil, and that having data is going to be strategically important for us. And for us as GE, we have always spent a lot of time valuing financial data. We protect the financial data. We spend a lot of time on the financial data, but we hadn't been spending time and investing money in our customer data. And I would argue that that's strategically more important in the next 3 to 5 years than the financial data. And so that was an area that we chose to invest in. We did have a partner that helped us with machine learning, but we invested in that on our own. In other areas, like, for example, digital assistant, which helps our sales teams to rapidly update CRM with never having to open up their computer, which they love. They can text it in or voice in their CRM updates. That's an area that is already developed. The artificial intelligence technology there is sophisticated, and it would take us longer to try to do that on our own versus just we can get to market faster. We can implement it and have a benefit and see a benefit sooner than if we were to try to do it on our own.
Kate, you raised a very, very fascinating point that data is the new oil, and we've been focused on financial data, but now we're focused, or I should say you're focused on the customer data. And so would you elaborate on that? That's quite fascinating, actually, quite interesting.
Yeah, this is a topic I'm really passionate about. The way that we started to work on this was really quite simple. Like a lot of companies, look, I'm embarrassed to say that, we didn't have a system to manage all of our customer data all across the company. And the outcome of that is staggering, right? We know that our sales teams spend 2/3 of their time today on administrative tasks, and only 1/3 of their time face-to-face with customers. And we know that when our sales team spends more time in front of our customers, we know that they sell more. We've proven that with statistics and regression analysis, and we know that cold. So what was important to us was, look, Michael, I was building, the things that I always wanted when I was selling and leading sales organizations. And I'll give you an example. If I was, I came from the lighting business. And when I was in lighting, I wanted to leverage the GE store. I wanted to leverage the contacts that someone in oil and gas had with ExxonMobil. And I wanted to get a warm introduction to ExxonMobil. And so in the past, I would spend 3 weeks on average calling and emailing around the company to try to find the right person that could give me a warm introduction. And the reality is that that's just not efficient and it's not productive. So the reason why we invested time and money to put this customer data set all together for the company is because now, if I want to get a warm introduction to ExxonMobil, I can find the information in seconds, and I can see who are the 12 people in the company who have active deals with ExxonMobil. Who are they working with? What's the job? How big is it? I can see all of that. Whereas in the past, it was like finding a needle in a haystack, Michael.
So having the right data will make a direct impact on the time that salespeople are able to spend with customers, but at the same time, they'll have better, more accurate, more up-to-date and complete information as well. So it's both of those things.
Yes, no, that's exactly right.
And we have a question from Twitter. Scott Weitzman is asking, is utilizing these new technologies helping you drive higher engagement from field sales and therefore becomes almost like a new form of motivation? So does the technology, and I'll add the data, does it help motivate the salespeople?
The answer is yes. We've seen that. And one of the things, so first of all, thank you so much for the question. I think it's a great question. One of the things that we've seen is that it is a motivator. I'll give you a great example. We implemented in partnership with Tact, the new GE digital assistant. And one of the things that we saw, one of my favorite quotes is from Matt DeMayo, and from our healthcare business. And he told us, he said, I love this technology because he said, Cate, in one day, I saw more customers. I updated CRM more times, 8 times in one day versus one day once a day on average. And I never even had to open up my laptop. And so if you think about it, all of our sellers, it doesn't matter if you're with GE or what company you're with, every seller that's really worth their salt, they all just want to sell. And they don't want to be bothered with a lot of administrative tasks. And so we found that, yes, a lot of these technologies do provide a motivation, and they quite simply enable our sales teams to just do what they love, which is spend time with customers and not spend time on a lot of administrative tasks.
Now, Cate, we've been talking about how technology enables the relationship with customers, enables salespeople to do a better job, to be more efficient, and so forth. But from the customer standpoint, how have buyers' expectations, your customers' expectations changed? And so how do the customers view this, and what do they want, and what do they demand?
Yeah, I like this question because I think this is one of our biggest learnings. Here's what we've really learned about our customers. What we've learned about our customers is that our customers are changing faster than we are, quite honestly. And what's driving this? There's a couple of things driving this. One of the key things that's driving this is the consumerization. The consumer internet companies, Google, Facebook, Amazon, and more, they've had a tremendous impact on not just our customers, but our employees. And how is that? Well, before I go to bed at night, right, I might buy something on Amazon, and it's really easy, right? It takes me less than a minute or two to do that. But then I wake up in the morning and I go to work and I see, if I'm a sales professional, I open up my CRM and I see what looks like a database. And quite honestly, it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't. And so what we see is the need for technology, to transform the sales experience. And one of the things that we believe is that if we invest to transform the sales experience, we then in turn empower our sales professionals to transform the customer experience. And so that's been a big learning for us.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? We've come to expect tools that somehow not only have the functions, but somehow make us feel good. And
That's right, Michael. I mean, it's our customers though are demanding a better experience, and our employees, rightfully so, are also demanding a better experience. I want to build on that question, and there's one other point I want to make on that that I think is really important for your audience, because I think this is a key learning for us. And I wish I would have known this, so I'll share it with the audience. One of the other realizations that we've come to is that our customers really want to buy differently than they have in the past. I think in the past, Michael, if we wanted to drive growth, we would say, we just need to go hire more salespeople. But you know what? That's actually not what we need to do. If you look at the way the customers want to buy, they don't want to see a salesperson at the beginning of the journey. But what what our customers do want is they do want to see a thoughtful white paper. They do want to read an interesting case study. They want to go to a conference and hear a great presentation about something that worked at another company. And all of that is done by marketing. And so we have to invest in marketing at the beginning of the buyer's journey. The other thing is that we always want the salesperson to kind of own the whole process. But the reality is that our customers don't want to buy that way. In the middle of the sales cycle, they're probably more comfortable interacting with someone online or on social media or getting a simple question answered. It's actually much later in the sales cycle that they want to see and interact and spend time with a sales professional. And so what this means is two things. It means several things. Number one, we need new investment in marketing and more investment in inside sales than we've ever had before in order to enable our customers to be more delighted with how they work with us. It also, so essentially it means a new division of labor. It means to me that we don't need necessarily as many sales professionals as we've had in the past, that we can deliver a better experience to our customers at a lower cost if we just look at how we do work differently.
So you're talking about that whole sense of experience seems to be creating that positive experience, both for salespeople inside the company, your employees, and especially for your customers. It seems that's a very strong common thread here.
Yes, that's exactly right.
We have an interesting question from the @CXOTalk account, who asks, what does sales transformation actually look like at General Electric in terms of things like process? How does the process change, and the outcomes? What are the outcomes you expect from this?
Oh, that's a great question. Look, a couple things. I mean, first of all, I'd say that I think it's really important to note, we're not done with our transformation by any means, but I do think that when we get invitations to speak about it, one of the things that we do feel is important is to be very transparent about what we're learning, and also about how we're failing and how we're making mistakes, in hopes that we can help the entire industry. So one of the things that I'd share, to answer your question, the process, does look different in businesses like our GE Power business, for example. One of the things that our GE Power business has done a really great job under the leadership of Meg Chapman, a very talented marketing professional, is they've invested a lot more in digital technologies that help capture data about our customers. And I'll share a quick example. One of the things that Meg Chapman and her team did is they started to capture data about customers that were visiting the website. And what they started to do was piece together the customer fingerprint. And they would get data about what things the customer was downloading and what they were interested in and how much time did they spend in certain areas. And I remember recently that they shared this information with one of the sales professionals in the GE Power team. And the sales professional said, and they said to the sales professional, look, John, you really need to talk to this customer, this utility in Florida, about this new product. And the sales professional, John, said, oh, no, I don't need to speak to them about that. I don't think they're interested in it. And they said, well, look, we've been capturing data. We've captured the customer fingerprint. It says that they are. And so he said, okay, I'm going to try it. And so he goes and he speaks to the customer about this technology. Sure enough, it turns out they were interested because they were downloading information. They were looking at different case studies and more. And in 4 months, this sales professional won an $8 million order that normally would have taken a year, to win. And so I think that's a great example of sales and marketing collaboration, but it's also a good example of GE Power implementing their sales transformation, and it's resulting in more orders faster.
So you have a real collaboration across all of these groups.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say that we have real collaboration across all groups. I mean, I think we're on a journey, but that's certainly the goal. And I think, every business is at a different place in their transformation. But I think we've got pockets of a lot of great work happening all across the company.
Well, I want to just take a moment and say thank you to the 16,000 viewers who are watching this right now. And we are speaking with Cate Gutowski, who is responsible for sales transformation at General Electric, which is a $125 billion company. Think about that. That's a lot of billions. So go over to Twitter using the hashtag CXOTalk, because there's a tweet chat happening right now, and you can ask questions directly of Cate. So Cate, you've been talking about change and transformation. What about change? Is hard. You said that earlier. And so how do you drive change through such a large company?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, and again, I'll share a failure that I think and a learning, that I think illustrates the point. Look, when we were at the beginning of this transformation, one of the things that I did is that, I started talking about why we were doing it and why we were investing in it and investing time in it. And one of the things that I explained to folks was that, look, we're doing this because, for a couple of reasons. Number one, we want to become a digital industrial, and we recognize that if we want to sell digital, we have to actually be digital ourselves. And so that's important, right? As you're trying to, you have incredible credibility with customers if you can share your own experiences, because the future of selling isn't about selling. It's about really sharing insights and thought leadership and experience with your customers so that they can be successful in their own transformations. So that was part of why we were doing it. But when I spoke at a very high level about why we were doing it, I spoke about, we're trying to drive growth. We're trying to drive speed. We're trying to drive productivity. We know that when we drive 5% productivity in the sales force, we can deliver $6 billion, which is, no small amount of money. So when I started talking about this, Michael, the reality is that, the sellers, like talking about growth, speed, and productivity, it didn't really make them want to jump out of bed in the morning. I mean, it just didn't, right? I mean, if I'm honest with myself, it just didn't. And so one of the things that I learned was, I read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, and it had a big impact on me. I really came to understand the importance of purpose in uniting a group. And I learned that there's a difference between leading an initiative and starting a movement. And I said, I want to start a movement. And so what I came to be familiar with was the law of innovation. And what the law of innovation says is that if you want to drive any change anywhere, if you want to successfully sell a new product, if you want to drive a sales transformation, whatever you want to do, the law of innovation, it's a simple bell curve. And what it says is that you need to first convert the innovators, the first 2.5%, and then the early adopters, the next 12.5%. And at that point in the curve, you get to the first 18%, and that's your tipping point. And so that's how you really create change. And so what we did is we gathered together the different business units and we crowdsourced our purpose for our transformation. And so instead of talking about growth, speed, and productivity, which people didn't care about, we crowdsourced the purpose, and the sales team came up with something much better than I could have ever come up with, which was our purpose is we're here, we wake up every morning inspired to build trusted relationships with our customers so that together we can change the world. And this relates to GE's bigger purpose of we're here to build, power, cure, and move the world. And I don't know, I thought it was very inspiring.
Do you consider yourself to be a change agent? I know you're a sales transformation leader, but how do you think about yourself in this change role?
Yeah. You know what's funny about that, Michael, is I recently worked with Simon Sinek and his team, and they helped me discover my own purpose. And I didn't know it, but when I went through the process, I discovered my own purpose. And my purpose is that I have the courage to go first, and then I make it safe for others to come along. And I didn't realize it about myself, but when we went through kind of my life history, there was a lot of examples of where that was true. And so that's why, like, this is a great job for me because it's really aligned with my purpose.
I'm just tweeting this out. I love that. I mean, you've just defined, in a way, that's the definition of a natural change agent. I have the purpose to go first and make it safe for others to come along.
I have the courage to go first, and then I make it safe for others to follow. Yep. I don't know why. I just ended up that way. I don't know. Genetics. I'm not sure.
So change agent obviously clearly is a major part of what you do. That's what you do.
That's right.
So I want to switch back now to some of the tools discussion. And I know that you're working closely with tact.ai, which is underwriting this episode. And again, I want to say thank you to Tact. You know, being on CXOTalk, there's no cost to watch CXOTalk. There's no we are not paid for people to be on CXOTalk. It's pure meritocracy, and it's underwriters like Tact who make it possible for us to be here. I mean, we're like NPR. I mean, it's literally true. So we're very grateful to Tact. And I know you're working closely with Tact. So please tell us, what are you doing with Tact AI?
So Tact has been a great partner for GE, and Tact has worked with several of our business units. Our GE Healthcare business, our GE Energy Connections business, our GE Digital business, and what we've loved from the beginning about the technology is that when we talked about that consumerization, that our customers and our employees are really kind of demanding. Tact AI, it really delivers on that. It really creates an enhanced experience for our sellers. And what we've loved about it is that it doesn't matter what business unit I talk to, it is the only, and believe me, I've looked at, the sales technology landscape, as we talked about earlier, is exploding right now. What's happening to sales is what happened to marketing about 7 to 9 years ago. The function will transform more in the next 2 years than it has in the past 50. And it's happening right now. And so, one of the things that's really important is that we find technologies that can be used in multiple types of business units. And this is the only one that it seems everybody can agree creates real value.
So what are you doing with them? Tell us about the nature of that. Tell us about that relationship.
So we've been partnering with Tact. We partnered with them to create the GE Digital Assistant. And essentially what this is an overlay on top of our CRM instance. And what it does quite simply is for those in the audience that are listening or watching that maybe can relate to this. If you're a business and you're struggling, you have low CRM adoption, there's a reason why. It's because your sellers don't want to enter data into a database because there's not really anything in it for them. And if you're listening, you might say, well, I'm a company that doesn't have good data in my CRM database. Well, again, there's a reason why. It's because there's not really anything in it for your sellers. And so what we've loved about the GE Digital Assistant product that we built together is that it enables a seller to capture either through text or through voice, what we call the golden 5 minutes after a sales meeting. And so, what we find is that we're getting more data entered into the CRM system. In businesses like healthcare, it's 8 times a day on average. We just got done with a large pilot of 300 users. In businesses like digital, we're getting CRM updates on average 16 times a day versus 1 day on average. And so that excites us because as we get more data, we're starting to, entered into the system. We're also seeing better data quality. Once you get better data quality, you can start to share that with your supply chain function and your product management function and your marketing function and all these functions in the company that want to help sellers win, but they just quite honestly don't have good enough data.
Now, you're obviously a very, very large company, and Tact is a startup. And so how do you manage that? It's really, for many companies, it's hard. For many large organizations, it's hard to do that. So how do you manage that relationship and work in a productive way with a smaller company?
I think one of the biggest changes that we've had in the company, and I really give our vice chair, Beth Comstock, credit for this. I think Beth has really made it safe for all of us in the company to really partner a lot more with companies, of all sizes, startups, small companies, mid-sized companies. It doesn't really matter. But I think she's really made it safe for us to do that. And so I think one of the values that we have as a company is we're really seeking the best ideas regardless of the source. And so for us, we love partnering with startups because really GE is, we're a 125-year-old industrial company, but what we want to be is a digital industrial startup. We're trying to reinvent ourselves. And so we love spending time with startups because we're trying to think, act, and work more like a startup ourselves. And so we've really valued the partnership with Tact. They've taught us a lot. Very early on when we were working to build our strategy, they were a key partner in helping us think through that.
That's interesting. So it's not just a matter of product features and functions in that relationship. It's learning from them and sharing that strategy development, if we could say, as well.
That's right. That's been key for us. The other thing is they've also had great assets. One of their they have a great very nimble team. I remember we spent a whole weekend working on a video. And it was better than what we could do in-house. And we needed that video because we needed to communicate what the digital assistant was. And we needed to help leadership really understand it. We were getting ready for a big commercial council meeting with our CEO. And so it was a great experience. And, they made us feel good too, because they said, look, you're such a big company, but yet when we worked with you over the weekend on this, we got a lot done, and it almost felt like we were working with a startup. And so that kind of made us feel good because we're trying to be one, actually. So
when you're working with a company like Tact, how do you evaluate the relationship? Are there metrics? Is there a checklist? How do you think about that?
I think when we're evaluating companies, what we're looking for in a partner is we're looking for a couple things. Number one, are they strategic? Do they have thought leadership that we can take advantage of? Do they have great technology? Do they have a quality mindset? And I think the other piece is, can they help make GE more competitive than it is today? And that can come in the form of price, but that can also come in the form of other areas of value.
So these are the kind of checklist items that you think about when you're evaluating this kind of relationship.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we're also looking for partners that are flexible. We're also looking for partners that think and work in terms of data and metrics. So for example, when we have been working on this 300-person pilot with our healthcare business, we set up a whole host of KPIs and metrics at the beginning of the pilot. And we said, look, if we achieve these goals, will both mutually deem that this was successful and worth investing in scaling. And so that's what we've been working on more recently.
We have only about 5 minutes left. And so again, I just want to remind everybody that we're speaking with Cate Gutowski, who is responsible for sales transformation at General Electric. And there's still a moment where you can ask questions. Go to Twitter at hashtag CXOTalk. And I also want to give a shout out to Jill Rowley, who introduced me to Cate with the word saying, and Jill came to me and she said, you have not spoken about digital transformation and sales transformation on CXOTalk, and that's an oversight, and you need to speak with Cate. And she introduced us, and so that's a shout out to Jill. Thank you so much. But Cate, as we finish up, what advice do you have for other organizations who may be trying to undertake a similar kind of transformation as you've been going through? You've been through it and you're going through it. What advice do you have?
Yeah, well, I just want to, I think some of the advice I'd have is, you mentioned Jill. And I think, Jill was one of the strategic consultants we partnered with early on to, quite honestly, just really understand, the industry and how it had really been changing, and she'd been a great strategic advisor and partner to us early on. So I think number one, I think you've got to surround yourself with experts and thought leaders in the industry. So I think that's important. I think second, I think the things that I wish someone would have told me, quite honestly, is, number one, I think, a lot of us are type A, right? At GE, we got a lot, we have 300,000 type A people here. And when you're type A, you tend to want to be perfect, right? You want to do everything perfectly. And I think that worked in an old industrial world, but I think we're in a time of great disruption. Every industry is being disrupted, every company, every function. And so what that means is that we all have to change and adapt our ways of working and thinking. And one of the ways that we've been trying to adapt is we've been trying to think, act, and work like a startup. And so that means starting small. That means testing and learning. That means being really comfortable with failing. And I mean really comfortable, where you've got to celebrate failures. I know Beth, Beth Comstock loves to give the example of how there was someone who came to her with a great idea and said, I want you to give me $1 million. And she said, look, before I give you $1 million for this idea, let's just test it. Let's just spend $10,000 and let's just test it. They spent $10,000 and found out that the idea would not work. And in fact, it failed. And so as a result, she celebrated the fact that we didn't spend $900,000, but we only spent $10,000. And so I think that was a great example of a leader who's helping us to see the world differently and to help us to see that we actually should celebrate failure. And when we do that, we make it more comfortable for our teams to fail. And when we're failing, we're learning. And when we're learning, we're growing. And when we're growing, we're changing. We're getting better.
And I think that this kind of testing and experimenting and then changing course based on the learnings, that gets right to the heart of not just corporate agility, but functioning as a startup and innovation. It's gets right to the center of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Michael. And I think, for those that are listening, I think, a lot of people say, well, I can't do a sales transformation because I'm not big like GE or I don't have a lot of resources. I would actually argue the opposite. I believe that any company of any size can execute a transformation, and you don't need a lot of money and you don't need a big team. All you need is a commitment to test and learn and fail and experiment and keep iterating, just like a startup would.
we have, we're actually out of time, but we have one last question, and from Twitter, and this is from Anurag Harsh, who is a senior executive at Ziff Davis and a guest. He's written 7 books on digital transformation, and he's been a guest on this show. And he's saying, what are the key strategies that you have to incentivize the best salespeople? Do sales commissions work anymore?
Oh, it's a great question. Thank you for that. Look, here's what I would say. We're actually looking at incentive compensation right now as a company. I think, we are, I think there's some fundamental principles or beliefs that we have. I think under our new leadership, under our new CEO, John Flannery, one of the things that he believes is that, our best sales professionals should make a lot of money. They should be making more than our CEOs. And I think that's a fundamental strategy change for us because that hasn't been the case in the past. And so I think, that's one area that we're exploring. I think the other area that's important to explore is that the role of sales is changing, meaning that our customers, when I think about some of the biggest deals that we're winning, it's not just the seller that's selling on their own. It's actually a team of individuals. And a lot of times the customers are making the buy decision, for example, in our aviation digital business, for example, customers are making the decision to buy after they've met with the chief technology officer. And so that's a great example of how more of the functions are playing a role. We've got other businesses where, big deals that we've done wouldn't have gotten done without the personal involvement of the CFO, walking the customer through the financing package that GE was going to offer for, a large deal. So I think that, groups like finance, technology, product management, they're all playing a critical role in helping us win big deals. And so as a result, it only makes sense that their incentives should change as well.
That was a very detailed question and a detailed answer. You have been watching episode number, which episode is it? It is
266, right, Michael?
That's, yes, that's right. Thank you. You have been watching episode number 266 of CXOTalk, and we've been speaking with Cate Gutowski, who is responsible for sales transformation at General Electric. Cate, thank you so much, and I hope you'll come back and do this again with us another time.
I'd be happy to, Michael. Thank you. It's been fun.
Everybody, thank you for watching, and next week, at this same time, we are speaking with Chris Satchell, who is the Chief Product Officer at Comcast. So check it out. And be sure to like us on Facebook, don't forget, and subscribe on YouTube. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.